All right, so we've got quite the case this time.
Yeah.
A robbery, a hit and run.
Mm-hmm.
And the crazy part is we have the interrogation takes.
Wow.
Like the actual raw footage of Tyler and Peyton, the guys involved in Darion's death.
No kidding.
Yeah, forget those news reports.
Right.
It's like we're right there in the room with the detectives.
I mean, this case, it really digs into some, like, tough questions about justice, you know? Like,
yeah, for sure.
did they actually get what they deserved?
Right.
And trying to figure out, like, what really went down in those last few moments.
Exactly, and that's what we're going to do today, right?
Yeah.
We'll go through these interrogation tapes, look at all the evidence, and see if we can piece together what happened to Darion.
Mm-hmm.
We know she was a young artist, struggling with addiction.
Right.
But she was also someone's daughter, a friend,
Of course.
a person with hopes and dreams. And it was all cut short.
Yeah.
So let's set the scene, okay?
Okay.
It all starts with this drug deal,
Right.
set up by Peyton, but it takes a really dark turn.
It turns into a robbery.
Yeah, a planned robbery.
And you know what's really striking to me is how this case just shows how vulnerable people struggling with addiction can be.
Yeah.
Darion, she was probably just looking for some relief.
Right.
You know, maybe even some normalcy and through drugs. But instead, she was targeted, taken advantage of.
Yeah, totally.
It's just a reminder of how dark the drug world can be.
Really is.
And how risky it is for anyone caught up in it.
It really makes you think about those complexities with addiction, you know, and how it can lead to something this awful.
Yeah.
But let's get into these tapes.
Okay.
Let's start with Tyler's.
Yeah.
The thing that just got me right away
What's that?
was that the detectives offered him pizza.
Pizza.
Yeah, at the beginning of the interrogation. Like they
Yeah.
were trying to make him feel comfortable or something.
Oh, yeah, that's a total mind game.
Right.
They're trying to, like, ease him up, you know?
Yeah.
Offer him some food, a little small talk. It's all about getting him to let his guard down.
Wow.
So he'll open up and tell them things he normally wouldn't.
It's like tricking him into cooperating.
Exactly. Even if that means incriminating himself.
It's crazy how strategic these interrogations are.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was all about hard evidence and facts, but it's this whole psychological thing, too.
Absolutely.
So at first, Tyler, he's downplaying his role. He's saying he was just there to support Peyton.
Yeah, just there for his friend.
Right. But the detectives don't buy it.
Nope.
They're showing him photos, videos, putting him at the scene.
Oh, wow.
And you can see the pressure's getting to him.
Yeah, classic interrogation tactic.
Really?
Let the guy talk. They know he'll slip up eventually.
Right.
Contradictions, inconsistencies.
Right.
It all starts to unravel.
And that's exactly what happened.
It does.
Yeah, Tyler finally admits he was in the back seat during the robbery. But he's still trying to spin it, you know?
How so?
Like he was the voice of reason. Pleading with Peyton and Brent to stop and help Darion.
After she was hit.
Yeah.
Interesting.
He even breaks down at one point.
Really?
Like he's full of regret.
So is it real remorse?
Right.
Or is he putting on a show for the detectives?
Yeah.
It's a common tactic.
Is it?
Oh, yeah. Make themselves look less guilty. Hoping they'll get some sympathy.
So is he being genuine?
It's tough to tell.
Yeah, it is.
Like trying to read his mind.
Right.
Is it real emotion or manipulation?
His story is pretty different from Peyton's, though.
It is.
Yeah, when we get to Peyton's interrogation,
Okay.
he's totally different.
Different how?
Way more detached.
Yeah.
Almost cold.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't even faze him.
Peyton's playing it smart.
Really?
Yeah, keeping his cool, trying to downplay his role, pointing the finger at others, especially Brent.
The driver.
Yeah. He admits they were going to rob her,
Okay.
but he swears he never touched her.
And this is where the taser comes in.
Oh, the tape.
Yeah, they're both trying to blame each other for using it.
Really?
Yeah, Tyler says he didn't use it at first.
Yeah.
Then he says it was just to scare her.
To scare her.
But Peyton says Tyler used it on her while she was hanging onto the truck.
So the taser's a big deal then.
It is. It's like this symbol of how they're trying to distance themselves from what happened.
Right. It's like they're both trying to say, I didn't do the really bad thing.
Yeah, and it shows how hard it is to trust what anyone says.
Oh, yeah. Especially in those high stress moments.
Right.
Memories get messed up. Emotions take over. People even change their stories on purpose.
So how do we figure out what really happened?
Well, we got to look for more evidence.
Okay.
See what matches up, what contradicts.
Right.
Like, were there any taser marks? Can forensics tell us who used it and when?
Okay.
We got to put it all together, the evidence and the story.
So it's not enough to just take their word for it.
Nope. Especially when they're trying to save their own skin. That's why investigators look at everything.
Mm.
Physical evidence, what the witnesses say, how people act.
To get the full picture.
Exactly. The truth's in there somewhere.
So let's try to piece together those last few moments.
Okay.
Darion realizes she's being robbed.
Right.
And she fights back. She ends up clinging onto the truck as they drive away.
That's got to be terrifying.
It is. Just imagine.
I know.
And what happens next, it's like their stories completely fall apart.
Oh, wow.
Tyler says he used the taser to scare her.
Mm-hmm.
But Peyton insists Tyler used it while she was holding on.
Okay.
And Brent, the driver,
Yeah.
he's saying he didn't even know she was on the truck.
Really?
Yeah, he says he swerved.
Okay.
And she fell off.
So he drove over her?
Yeah.
It's just awful to think about what she went through.
It is.
So much violence, fear.
And they just didn't care.
You know, the chilling part is they all admitted she was alive after being hit.
They saw her moving.
They did, but none of them stopped to help.
They just left her there.
It's just cold.
It really makes you question what kind of people they are.
Yeah, like where's the empathy?
Right.
It also makes you wonder about the legal side of things.
What do you mean?
Well, Tyler pleaded guilty to first-degree manslaughter.
Okay.
But what does that actually mean?
Right.
And how's it different from other homicide charges?
That's a good point.
Yeah, our listeners should know the difference.
Yeah, definitely.
So first-degree manslaughter, it usually means an accidental killing that happens while they're committing another felony.
Which in this case is the robbery.
Exactly. It means they were reckless, they didn't care about human life.
More than just being careless.
Right.
It's about what they meant to do.
Exactly. Or didn't mean to do.
This is important when you talk about the sentences.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And why the judge decided what he did.
So they're all found guilty.
Yeah, but the sentences are all over the place.
They are.
Kyler gets 9 years.
Okay.
Peyton almost 12.
Wow.
And Brent, the driver, just over 9.
Huh. It's these differences that get people talking about this case, you know?
Yeah.
Questioning if justice was really served. Yeah. And that's where the legal system gets complicated.
Totally.
Sentencing, it's not just about punishment. Right. It's also about other factors.
Like what?
Like, did they do anything like this before?
Okay.
Do they seem sorry?
Right.
Can they be rehabilitated?
I see.
But for the people who knew Darion,
Yeah.
it's hard to accept when the punishment doesn't seem to fit what happened.
Right.
So we've laid out the basics.
We've heard what the suspects said.
We've seen how their stories don't add up.
And we're starting to understand the legal side of things.
But this is just the beginning.
There's more.
Oh, yeah. So much more to unpack.
Like what?
We need to dig into the forensic evidence, look at the sentencing guidelines, and think about the bigger picture of this case.
Okay.
We also need to think about the people who were with Darion that night.
Her friends.
Exactly.
What did they see? What did they do?
And how does that play into this whole tragedy?
Those are some really important questions.
They are.
And we're going to get into all of that in the next part of our deep dive.
Can't wait.
So stick with us as we keep untangling this complicated case
Mm-hmm.
and figure out what justice really means.
I'm ready.
Me too. So as we go deeper into this case,
Mm-hmm.
it's like there's more to it
Yeah,
than just what Tyler, Peyton, and Brent did.
right.
We got to talk about the people who were there that night.
The bystanders.
Yeah, the ones who were with Darion but didn't do anything.
It's interesting Tyler even brings them up in the interrogation.
He does.
Yeah, almost like he's blaming them in a way.
What does he say?
He's frustrated they didn't help more. He even suggests they could have followed the truck.
Wow.
It's a way to shift the blame, but it makes you wonder,
Yeah?
what did those friends actually see?
What?
Why didn't they try to stop it?
It's easy to judge after the fact,
Oh, yeah.
but they were in a scary situation.
Right. Totally unexpected.
Maybe they froze up.
It happens.
Or they were scared for themselves.
Fear can do that to you,
Yeah.
especially when there's violence.
Right.
But it makes you think, doesn't it?
Go.
When do you have to help someone, even if it's dangerous?
That's a tough question.
It is.
And the law is different everywhere.
Right.
In some places, you have to help. In others, it's more like a moral thing.
Yeah, it's complicated.
No easy answers.
But I think it's good to ask ourselves,
What do you mean?
what would I do if I saw something like that happening?
Right. Would you try to stop it?
But you call for help.
Or just stand there?
Makes you think.
You're making some really good points.
Thanks.
Makes you think about what you're really made of. Your
Hmm.
courage, your compassion.
Yeah, but it's also about perspective.
How so?
We've been focused on the guys who did it.
And Darion?
Right, but what about their families?
Oh, yeah.
Their friends, the whole community.
That wider impact?
Exactly. It's easy to forget about that.
The family's grieving.
The friends who are hurting, feeling guilty.
Right.
The community shaken up by what happened.
Those ripples go far.
They do. They last a long time.
It's like justice isn't just about punishing the people who did it.
Exactly.
It's also about helping the people who were hurt by it.
It's about healing.
Making things right.
Making the community feel safe again.
That's where that restorative justice thing comes in.
Oh, yeah. That's a really interesting approach.
It is. It's about fixing the harm that was done.
Right.
Getting everyone talking.
The victims, the offenders, the community.
It's about getting to the root of the problem.
And finding solutions that actually help people.
I like that idea.
Yeah, me too.
But going back to the guys for a second.
Okay.
I keep thinking about those sentences.
Yeah.
9 years for Tyler. A little over 9 for Brent, the driver.
Right.
And Peyton almost 12.
Yeah.
Does that seem like enough for what they did?
It's a tough one. A lot of people are debating that.
Are they?
Oh, yeah. Some people say it's too lenient.
Not enough.
Right. They say it doesn't match how serious the crime was.
And that a life was lost.
But others say the judge had to follow the rules.
The sentencing guidelines.
Exactly. And he probably considered other things.
Like what?
Like if they'd done this before, if they seemed sorry,
right.
if they could change their ways.
I get that.
It's hard though, right?
Yeah.
For Darion's family and friends.
To balance those legal things.
Yeah. With how they're feeling.
The grief, the anger.
No amount of time can bring her back.
Or take away their pain.
It just shows you how limited the justice system can be.
It does.
When it comes to real human suffering.
Right.
It can punish people, maybe give some closure.
But it can't fix everything.
And we can't forget about the drug problem.
Darion's addiction.
Yeah, it definitely played a part in what happened.
But it doesn't make her death any less tragic.
Absolutely not.
And it doesn't excuse what those guys did to her.
Right. They took advantage of her.
It's about finding that balance. Understanding addiction is a problem.
It's a disease.
But still making sure justice is done.
This case really shows how messy all these issues are.
Yes.
And how they can end up like this.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
okay,
what are the main things you want our listener to take away?
I think this case shows us that crime affects way more than just the people directly involved.
Right.
It hurts families, communities, everyone.
And it makes us ask some tough questions.
About responsibility.
About what's right and wrong.
And about how our justice system works.
This is a lot to think about.
It is.
And I bet our listener is feeling overwhelmed right now.
Probably.
But that's why these deep dives are important.
I agree.
We're not just repeating the facts.
Right.
We're trying to understand them.
To analyze them.
And to get people thinking critically.
Exactly.
So as we head into the last part of our exploration,
okay,
I want our listener to think about the long-term effects of this case.
Good idea.
What lessons can we learn?
Yeah, what can we change to stop this from happening again?
And how can we make society better?
More just, more compassionate.
Those are some really important questions.
They are, and we'll keep exploring them as we finish up this story.
It's a complex story.
And a heartbreaking one.
Okay, so we've been through a lot with this deep dive.
Yeah.
Those interrogation tapes, all those legal terms.
Mm-hmm.
And then thinking about what those bystanders should have done.
It's been quite the journey.
It has, but like with any good investigation,
right,
there's always more to find out.
Absolutely. What we've talked about so far is just the surface.
Right.
There's a ton more information out there.
Like what?
Think about those court documents.
Okay.
Victim impact statements, even the sentencing guidelines.
You're right. We haven't even touched on that stuff.
Nope.
And those could give us a whole new perspective on this case.
That's for sure.
Like hearing from Darion's family and friends.
Exactly.
Those victim impact statements, they must be so powerful.
They are, you can really hear the pain in their words.
The impact of her loss.
It reminds us that there's real people behind all this.
Yeah.
Real lives that have been changed forever.
And looking at the sentencing guidelines,
Mm-hmm.
that could help us understand why the judge made those decisions.
Absolutely. Were there certain rules he had to follow?
Right.
Were there things about the case that made the sentences lighter?
That makes sense.
It's all about understanding the legal system.
Right.
How it works, why things happen the way they do.
It's not just about feelings and gut reactions.
Nope, there's a process, rules to follow.
It's supposed to be fair and consistent.
That's the goal.
But I can see how it would be hard for Darion's loved ones
Oh, yeah.
to understand all that.
Especially when they're grieving.
Wanting justice, closure.
The law can be really complicated.
It can.
And sometimes it doesn't feel like enough.
So for our listeners,
Mm-hmm.
don't just stop with what we've talked about here.
Right. Keep digging.
Go find those court documents.
Read those victim impact statements.
Look into those sentencing guidelines.
It's all out there.
And as you do that,
yeah.
think about this.
What's that?
We've been focused on Tyler, Peyton, and Brent.
Mm-hmm.
and Darion, of course.
Of course.
But what about